Hello and welcome to another episode of Do Not Fade This podcast. My name is Joshua Riemer. I'm joined by none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Jared Block. And today we are here at our final division preview podcast to talk about the NL West. Jared, how are you doing? And give me a little bit of a rundown of how you feel about the NL West initially.
Yeah, doing well. Put together the final acquisitions and departures for this division just a little bit ago. And from what I gathered, this is very much like some of our other shows where you kind of see the top dog in the prediction futures situation. And then from there, it's all about what kind of tiers and systems are set beneath the favorites. So obviously, the elephant out of the room, the Dodgers are obviously the best team in baseball. From there, does this division have any wiggle room to get a Giants team into the wild card? Can they get the Padres, who won 90 games, into the wild card? I guess we'll see. But yeah, I saw the last thing I'll say here is that my jaw didn't necessarily drop, but the over/under for the Dodgers right now, as of DraftKings Sportsbook on March 11th, is 102.5, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm interested to see who's ballsy enough to take the under there.
Yeah. You kind of got to be ballsy to take the over. I mean, 102 and a half, that's a lot of wins. That's saying that this team wins 10 more games than they did last year too. So, yeah, certainly is going to be fun to talk about the Dodgers here. Like you said, this kind of represents like a AL West almost, or like one of those divisions where like who the top dog is, and you kind of just got to poke and prod to see if you can find the other things that make this division interesting. And I'm sure we'll talk about plenty of that. So, Jared, if you're ready, I'm ready. We can get into it, and we'll go to 3 to 5 headlines.
Yep, let's do it.
We start out the show with talking about 3 to 5 of the biggest headlines from the offseason for the NL West, and we kind of already talked about it, but we'll go back in and talk about the evil empire, aka the Dodgers, who went out and got Kyle Tucker and Edwin Diaz. Also, didn't lose basically anyone. I mean, they kept the whole roster intact. So this is a run it back of last year, except you add one of the most dynamic hitters in baseball and one of the best closers in baseball to the roster. Just how good can the Dodgers be, Jared?
I feel like they have even more expectations now than they did last year. And I think that's not saying that much, but we already know how tough it is to win back-to-back titles. And I feel like we just said this, like 100-plus wins is something you rarely see in terms of the over-under before the season even starts. So, yeah, I mean, sky's the limit. We saw that this team won 93 games when they were considered a mediocre squad, and the pitching was getting injured, and, guys like Max Muncy was down for a while. Mookie wasn't himself. So, yeah, I mean, like, look, the floor is as high as it probably has ever been in this century of baseball. So that's kind of what you have to say. And this team can win 110 plus games if everything goes right.
Yeah, this very much feels to me like the Red Sox felt back in 2018, where they had Mookie, they had all those guys, they had Sale on that team, and they just kind of looked destined for it. They ended up winning. I had to go look it up. They won 108 games that year. I don't think it's that far-fetched to say the same can go for this Dodgers team. I had the saying before, or I've talked about it on a previous podcast, where it's like you win 60 games, you lose 60 games. It's about what you do with the rest of them that really matters in baseball. This is one of those rare cases where you can kind of forget the 60 losses. This team could lose less than 60 games, and it wouldn't be all that shocking. So it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about the Dodgers overall once we get to offseason acquisitions and departures and grading them as overall. But obviously, they did quite a bit. All right, next headline is Padres stay competitive on a budget, right? They go out and get the King extension, which is something they desperately needed to do, but the rest of their additions were pretty low level, and they actually lose some guys due to money concerns. We know this Padres has had some financial restrictions recently. Give me your thoughts on the Padres kind of doing it on a budget this offseason.
Yeah, they are just in a spot where you are in a division that has the best roster in baseball collectively year over year. And how do you stay destined to compete? And you got to try to figure it out. And they've done that. They have been one of the most, I won't say successful. I will say that they have one of the longest lists of transactions. So like I give them credit for continuing to try every offseason, and also at the deadline they continue to just make moves left and right, and they still, look, this team won 90 games last year, and they lost in the wild card with a pitcher that now is on a different team. So I think that they can get there. I think if there's a team that I expect to take a next step and get into a second or third, even maybe make an NLCS run, it could be this team. We'll talk about them more. I do think that they have one of the most electric offenses in baseball that just got better.
Yeah, I could certainly get behind that. All right, last headline here is welcome to the retirement home, Grandpa. The Diamondbacks went out and they definitely made some acquisitions, but all of these guys are relatively old and feel like they're on the decline, right? Nolan Arenado is someone they got in a trade. Obviously, he didn't cost all that much, but we've kind of saw a regression of Arenado over the last few seasons, not even just last season. They got Carlos Santana, who's relatively old. They added Merrill Kelly, who is relatively old as well. You kind of go through the list and you're like, man, this is the retirement home over here for the Diamondbacks. So give me your thoughts on their offseason.
Yeah, they also traded away some other young guys too, which is interesting. We'll talk about that in the departure section. I don't know what to do with this team, man. I was on the Arizona bandwagon a couple of years ago, and when they went the distance, I don't know what to make of it. Corbin Carroll's hurt right now. He might play opening day. We'll see. We'll talk about that when we get there. But yeah, it just does feel like they are several tiers below the first three teams in this division. And yeah, I'm not saying the Rockies are going to catch them, but they will be what I think of to be a lower level team, like a bottom 7 team in baseball potentially.
For sure. All right. Anything else here, Jared? If not, we'll head over to offseason report cards.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. For those who don't know how it works, Jared and I will go through each team's offseason acquisitions and their departures as well, and then give them a grade from A to F. We will start out with the division winner from last year, and that is none other than the Los Angeles Dodgers. Like we already said, they went out and gave mega deals to Kyle Tucker and Edwin Diaz. Huge signings for both of them. They also re-signed Miguel Rojas, they re-signed Kiki Hernandez, and they re-signed Evan Phillips on a very cheap deal that I thought was pretty interesting, that felt like a little bit of a hometown discount almost. Their key offseason departures, they lost Kirby Yates, they lost Anthony Banda, and they lost Mike Conforto. Not all that much. There's not a whole lot in either department, but what they don't have in quantity, they definitely have in quality. Give me a grade for the Dodgers here.
Yeah, that Yates is the only guy that you can even say there's sort of a that one kind of hurts a little bit, just because the back end of that bullpen was so untrustworthy at certain points of the year. When they came to the playoffs in the postseason, though, none of that even mattered. Their starters just went the distance at pretty much every single round. So
yeah. With
that said, and the Conforto stuff is a minor league deal. These things are way, way on the minors side of things. So this is as close to an A+ as I think you can have, and I'll give it a strong A. And the only reason I can't put it in an A+ is just because the number of transactions was just relatively minimal. You're essentially just taking Tucker and you're saying, excuse my language, but fuck you to the rest of the league, right? That's essentially what it is. And so you can't give it anything less than an A, I think.
Yeah, I got to go A+ here. Look, I understand maybe the amount of offseason acquisitions isn't what you want, but they keep everyone, so I don't think there's a lot of need to replace anyone. And like you said, it was kind of just a fuck you deal of let's go out and get 2 of the best players on the market and pay them a gargantuan amount of money. There are surely going to be talks about it once we get to the CBA deals after this season, and that's not a now concern. That, at least for the Dodgers, that's not a right now concern. That's a later them concern. Present them is very excited about this season and definitely feel like the favorites. And they can absolutely dominate here with the offseason that they had. Adding Kyle Tucker to this lineup is absurd. Absolutely absurd. A+ for sure. I think you have to give it to him. All right, we go over to the Padres, Jared, whose offseason acquisitions were re-signing Michael King, giving Sung-Min Song a 4-year deal. Miguel Andujar was signed as well. Kyle Hart was re-signed. And then Ty Addick, Deason Acosta, Tristan McKenzie, Griffin Canning, Nick Castellanos, Herman Marquez, Walker Buehler, all signed as well. Some of those are minor minor league deals, but they added a whole bunch of guys on 1-year deals, basically. Their offseason departures, though, were pretty significant. You lose Dylan Cease to the Blue Jays. Never really felt like the Padres were in the running for that. They weren't willing to spend the money on him. You lose Luis Arias to the Giants. You lose Robert Suarez. Yeah, in division as well. Very true. You lose Robert Suarez to the Braves. Kind of, I mean, like, I know they have a lot of bullpen arms. They're kind of known for their bullpen, but Suarez was a big part of that bullpen. And then you lose Ryan O'Hearn to the Pirates as well. There's definitely, unlike the Dodgers that we just talked about, there's certainly the quantity with their offseason acquisitions. Don't know if the quality's there, though. Give me your thoughts. What's your grade?
I like them. Like the fact that they chose King. They probably knew, in hindsight, that this was going to be a spot where they just weren't going to be able to compete for Cease, like you said. So, from that angle, like, I don't think that I will punish them for that. Losing Arias to a team that you're going to play a ton this year does hurt. From there, feels like you're kind of throwing some stuff at the wall and hoping that at least 20% of it sticks. Like, how do we know how Nick Castellanos is going to go from what was a hitter-friendly ballpark to now a pitcher-friendly situation? I do like the Tristan McKenzie deal. I do think that they'll need him at some points this year. Man, I don't know. They did lose a lot. At the end of the day, I don't know if they have enough pieces to necessarily... I said that they were one of the best offenses in baseball when clicking. We'll talk about that more when we talk about other things. But, yeah, I think this is pretty vanilla for me. I'll probably go with C+. I don't think that they made a lot of deals. How many are significant? I'm not sure. But could we see, like, a diamond in the rough situation where, like, Griffin Canning all of a sudden looks great after an Achilles tear, or Tristan McKenzie is the best version of himself in a pitcher-friendly situation? That can certainly happen. So I'll give it a C+.
Yeah, I'll go B-. I'm right there with you with everything you said. I think the only thing that, like, I would have to add is that, like, this has to be some of the best pitching depth in the league. At least, like, their, like, 6th or 7th or 8th guy is better than almost anyone else's 6th, 7th, and 8th guy. Outside of maybe, like, the Mets. Mets also have really good pitching depth. I like what they did. I like getting German Marquez out of Colorado and getting him into a pitcher-friendly ballpark. I think the same can be said about Walker Buehler. The same can be said about basically all these pitchers that they re-signed, they signed, excuse me. And I think the re-signing of Michael King is a good one. Like, there was a lot of rumors of him going to the Yankees, of him going anywhere else, but the Padres willing to sign him for that money is a big deal. And I think they're good for it because I think they're better off with him in the rotation than without him. So, yeah, I'll go B- here. All right, we head over to the Giants, Jared. Their key offseason acquisitions are they got Harrison Bader, they got Luis Arias, they got Tyler Mahle, they got Adrian Hauser, Sam Hentges, Jason Foley, Will Brennan, and Joey Lucchesi. Their key offseason departures were minimal. They just lost Justin Verlander, and they lost Andrew Knizer as well. Give me your grade. What do you got?
Yeah, another example of a team that's exactly 81 and 81. I do think that getting the Arias stuff is very strong. I think that the Bader deal is good. I also like Tyler Mahle, though he did have an implosion last year with Texas. I just find it interesting that they didn't have to give up much. So in that regard, I kind of have to give it a positive grade. We'll talk about this lineup too. This is obviously extremely well-situated lineup, top to bottom essentially. And man, I don't know. This is more than just a vanilla situation because you do get Arias. So I'll give it a B, and I don't know if I can upgrade it more than that because there was no, like, Luis Arias is technically their splash situation, but it's only a 1-year deal, right? So how much of a splash is that? Yeah, I think that this team is just striving to be more than a middle-of-the-road ball club, given what they had last year, and they got to shoot for the wild card. So with that said, are they 5 wins better with this situation? I think it's maybe a couple wins better, and that's why I kind of have to give it like a straight B, because it's kind of like just feels all around mediocre for me.
Yeah, I could certainly get behind that. I will give them a B as well. That's what I had for my grade. I like the signings. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think adding Bader, adding Luis Arias, like, you made the offense better. You possibly made the pitching better. I like the signing of Tyler Mahle compared to some of the other arms that they threw out there at the end of the year. Tyler Mahle is a vast upgrade to that. You look at the lineup, like we have the projected lineup in our doc that we both reference, and you look at the lineup all the way through, and you're like, I can get kind of excited about this offense. Like there's some good names in here and like some good pedigrees. They just kind of all have to put it together in order to get like 5 wins better, like you said. They're like a wild card contender at the very least. Like I can buy into that at the end of the day, especially if Bryce Eldridge takes the leap that he's supposed to. Yes. I can get behind them being a wild card team, but it will kind of depend on that. It will depend on this starting lineup looking like the names that this starting lineup has, right? Like Willy Adames was their big signing last year. But he really didn't do all that much for this team last year. Rafael Devers was acquired, not really mid-season, not at the trade deadline. It was way before the trade deadline. But like Devers didn't look like Devers for quite a while, and you can blame that on the injury. You can blame that on him getting used to a new surrounding potentially. But like you need this lineup to look like the pedigree of the names that are in this lineup, and if it does, then I could see this being like a mid-80 win team and a wild card contender for sure. All right, we head over to the Arizona Diamondbacks, Jared. Their key off-season acquisitions are Nolan Arenado, Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly, Michael Soroka, Carlos Santana, James McCann, Paul Sewald, Taylor Clark, Cade Stroud, Josh Groves, and Joe Ross. Their departures are Jake McCarthy, Blaze Alexander, and Kyle Bacchus. Give me your grade. What do you think?
I want to like this team so bad. And maybe it's more of like a DFS / sports betting player prop situation. I still think Arenado's got some stuff in the gas tank. Is it going to be Suarez level stuff? No. Merrill Kelly's already hurt. That doesn't look good on a 2-year deal. I like the signing of Soroka to a certain degree. Don't like giving away Blaze Alexander, but we'll talk about their prospect situation because I do think we'll see a guy step into the infield or maybe an outfield role for them. They made moves. I just feel like at the end of the day, where does this team think it can go? I'm going to be very blunt and just say I don't see a ceiling anytime soon, and that kind of sucks considering the run they were on 2 years ago. So I'll give it a harsh C- just because of what has happened and unfolded since. I just don't like the Kelly situation right now as it's unfolding.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Had the C- written down as well. I think this is a clear, like, indecisive offseason from the Diamondbacks. You need to decide if you want to rebuild around your young talent or if you want to rely on older guys and try to make a move in this NL West division. And I think there's no clear direction here. Like, you're signing older guys, but you're trading away young talent, but you're not signing enough guys to really make a difference in this overall team. Vegas agrees with us clearly. They have them being exactly the same as they were last year. And treading water isn't what you're supposed to do at any sports level, but especially MLB. You either kind of go all out or go all in my opinion. I just don't think there's a reasonable way to do that. Like if you traded Ketel Marte, if you don't go out and get Arenado and Kelly, you start relying on younger assets. I would have been a lot more excited than what they did with this offseason. Where like, you believe in Arenado? I don't. I think his better years are way behind him. Maybe he'll show us a resurgence in a new uniform. We'll see. But the rest of these signings, like I think Merrill Kelly's like an okay pitcher, but like certainly not a high-level pitcher like they're going to rely upon him to be. And Gallen's okay, not great. Like, you don't have a clear ace in this rotation. You got a lot of mid, to be honest with you. And the same can kind of be said about the starting lineup, where I know there's good parts like Perdomo, Marte, Corbin, but like after you get past those three names, you have a lot of guys that you scratch your head at. So I don't know. Very tough offseason, in my opinion, for the Diamondbacks. Definitely going the opposite direction of where we saw them going when they were really making those postseason runs and looking good.
And we're just sweeping Ketel Marte saga under the rug?
Yeah, for sure, right?
If you were going to move on from him, last offseason would have been the time to do so. That stuff's weird. It's really strange, and it could certainly kick up again if this team does not get going. Also, Corbin Burns not coming back till projected to come back around the All-Star break time. That could be, hit or miss, depending on how good this team is by that point.
For sure. All right, let's head over to our last team to talk about when it comes to offseason grades, and that is the Colorado Rockies. Their key offseason acquisitions were getting Willie Castro on a 2-year deal. They also got Michael Lorenzen, Jose Quintana, and Tomoyuki Sagona. They got Jake McCarthy in a trade with the Diamondbacks. They got Edward Julian. They got Pearson Ole. And then their key offseason departures were Orlando Arcia, Michael Toglia, Kyle Farmer, Angel Chavili, and Herman Marquez. I didn't know they lost Toglia to the Reds. That's certainly an interesting one. Give me your thoughts. What do you think about an offseason grade for the Rockies?
Oh, man, I don't know. This is like the classic level of like you're trying to get better without getting a splash really anywhere. I like the McCarthy stuff to a certain degree. Eddie Julian was terrible with Minnesota last year. Willie Castro was one of the bright spots in Minnesota, so I'll give him that. But, man, going out and being like, yep, Sagano, we're giving you a 1-year deal. Pitching cores, yeah, that's not going to up your stock anyway. Jose Quintana is pushing 40. Like, I guess if you want to call that a decent, like, number 5, that's fine. Yeah, I don't know, man. Lorenzen's probably going to get exposed in cores too. I just feel like this is a situation where you're not going to get any better than you were last year, and that's really saying how much I don't believe in this team because they won 43 games last year. So I will give it a D. There's nothing that moves the needle for me.
Yeah, I agree. So I will say at least there are. I'll go D here with you. I don't think you can give them anything better than that. Just considering like no moves were made towards making this team that much better. I was about to say something positive, but the more I look at it, the more I guess like Lorenzen's like a good ad at the end of the day. Like Lorenzen showed some upside last year. Willie Castro is a good ad. I don't care what you say. I think he will have a very good season in cores. But outside of that, like Quintana and Sagona are both guys that like our eyes are gonna light up when we see bats facing off against them in cores over the summer. Like it's gonna be a great spot, and like yeah, you can't really say much else outside of that. So, really ugly offseason, really ugly season. They've got to find. I mean, I think they're just so scared after the Chris Bryant era, where like they go out and finally make that move to go get a splash guy, and it just couldn't have gone worse. It was absolutely horrendously bad. So, rely on young talent. Hope you can develop those guys and keep on keeping on, I guess. All right. Anything else for off-season report cards? If not, we'll head to Rookie Roundup.
No, let's head over.
Let's head over to Rookie Roundup, where we talk about some of the division's top rookies / prospects that we think can make a difference in the division this year. Give me your guy. Who do you want to go to first?
The guy that I want to go to first, I have 3 names written down, and I think only 2 are relevant for this year. I want to also state that this division just doesn't have farm system like the other divisions do. With that said, I do think that we can at least talk about San Diego's Miguel Mendez here. I do want to start there. With that said, like this is going to be a situation where if you're San Diego, it's going to be tough for anybody to kind of move up in the rankings. And I do think that there's potential to see him jump this year, though. It's going to come at a situation where I'm sure you're going to say, I don't know if we can trust a guy going from AA to the big leagues. But we do have MLB rankings having his ETA at 2026. It's a situation where he's 23 years old. He's in AA right now. It was a situation where he's still extremely young. Signed for $10,000 out of the Dominican Republic in 2021 when he was 18. Had some struggles, couldn't get past single A. And then he really had a breakout season last year. So he has what it takes. And I think what they want to do with this guy, I was reading into this a little bit more because I had some time today. They potentially are worried about his third pitch, and they're kind of using this year as an experiment because he's got a really, really good 1-2. With that said, this could be a guy that pivots from a starter outlook to being a really, really strong and developmentary bullpen piece, which they are very, very good at developing. So I do think we can keep an eye on Miguel Mendez. It won't be like we're not going to talk about it probably until like July or August, but don't be surprised if this guy makes a 40-man at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I struggle to bring anyone up because, like you said, this is definitely the weakest division when it comes to prospects, without a doubt. Three out of the top, or three of the top guys are all Dodgers who won't make their debuts until next season or until 2028.
Right.
Eduardo Quintero, Jose De Paula, Zaire Hope as well. All guys that like aren't going to make their debuts until the Dodgers end up clearing out some of the older talent. I guess I'll go with Bryce Eldridge here, who already debuted last season, but like is technically going to be a rookie this year. This guy's big. He's 6'7", Jared. He's a first baseman. He has a ton of power. Between AAA and the majors last year, he had a 60% hard contact, Jared. So like this guy has a lot of power in his bat. He also has a lot of swing and miss. They've got to develop that a little bit more. He has a chance to be a 30 home run type of guy. They just need to develop him. So we'll see what ends up happening with Bryce Eldridge. But like this is definitely one of their best prospects, or one of the best MLB ready prospects in the division, probably.
I absolutely agree there. Any thoughts on him compared to like we didn't even mention Tyler Fitzgerald, who was a phenom name coming in. He didn't even make our starting projected lineup. So thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that it's probably just like they kind of have an abundance of infield guys. Like even Eldridge isn't going to get to play first base, right? Like he gets to DH this year most likely. So, and we saw Fitzgerald kind of fizzle off towards the end of last year. We saw him be very platoon heavy, so maybe that's a little bit what goes into that too.
I agree. This is not a this year conversation, but we should at least note that Colorado should get relatively excited about getting Ethan Holiday, and he kind of just fell to them. He was supposed to be in the conversation for the number 1 overall pick in last year's draft, fell to number 4, and he'll be in single high this year. So I do think there's a chance that maybe he jumps the ranks and we see him late 27, maybe early 28. But yeah, Jackson Holliday's younger brother apparently has the profile of being more of the power hitter that his dad was. So excited to talk about that over the coming years. Colorado doesn't really have they don't really have many things to look forward to in terms of their prospects, at least for this year. The guys that were prospects are basically becoming everyday starters at this point of the season, and we'll talk about that shortly. Last thing I want to mention just for this exercise is like the Dodgers have basically a low-level MLB pitching staff in AAA right now. We already talked about the depth for the Padres. Like they have like 8 to 9 quality right-handed pitching options available to them at any point. San Francisco, like what they did too. Like I don't know. The Dodgers basically, their AAA team is essentially like I think better than the Rockies at this point.
Yeah, you could definitely make the case. All right, anything else here, Jared? If not, we will head over to division power rankings.
That's what they should do for this WBC stuff where, like the Dominican Republic takes on the White Sox or something. They should just put the Dodgers AAA team against the Colorado Rockies MLB team.
Hell yeah. We got to see it. We got to see it happen. All right, let's head over to our division power rankings. We'll start with who we think is going to finish last place and go up from there. Jared, I don't think it needs to be hidden that much. Why are the Rockies your last place team here?
I like what they bring to the table in terms of like their top 7 guys. I don't think that Eddie Julian should be playing everyday baseball. I don't mind Tyler Freeman whatsoever. Jordan Beck and Hunter Goodman have taken next steps. We loved Mickey Moniak last year. And I think the McCarthy signing is a good one. Just like they're just going to have the worst rotation of baseball. That's just no doubt about it. And Lorenzen does help that. Freeland can pitch well outside of Coors, and sometimes he'll get lucky. I won't say that. He's still an MLB level arm and just is in a really bad situation. Won't leave because he's a hometown kid, which I respect. With that said, they still have to throw out Chase Dollander, Tanner Gordon. We saw McCade Brown last year, who was arguably pound for pound one of the worst starters in baseball. And they just signed Valente Beloso. I didn't even see that until now. When I looked at the depth pieces, their over/under is at 54.5, and I think this is one of the clearest signs of an under that I have seen in our projections for these conversations. They won 43 games last year. I just don't see it getting any better, and I don't even know if they crack 50 this year. So I will say easily one of the worst teams in baseball, easily the worst pitching staff in baseball. I will say the under of 54.5 wins.
Here's my pitch on why I think
Make
they
the
go
case,
over.
please.
Yeah, let me give the positives here for just a second. Freeland is a decent arm, like you said. No better than decent, right? But Lorenzen adds a good piece to this rotation that I actually like at the end of the day. And I think we do have to remember that Chase Dollander, it was his rookie year last year, but he came in very highly touted. This is not like this is not your Valente Belazos or like your other guys out there. Like, he has a pedigree is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
And I think if you have three guys in the rotation that end up giving you something, as long as they don't get injured, which is like a huge if, you feel okay, you feel it's better than last year's rotation, which was like absolutely terrible. And maybe like we don't even have Quintana in the starting rotation right now, but like if Quintana can add a level of veteran depth to your rotation, of a guy that can get soft hits in cores, maybe your rotation takes a step forward. And then the starting lineup, like you said, like, there are positives to the starting lineup. Jake McCarthy is a good leadoff hitter to get, especially in this ballpark where triples come in abundance. Ezekiel Tovar had a very bad year last year, but I like Tovar a lot. I think he is a talented player. Mickey Moniak had a solid year last year. Hunter Goodman had a solid year last year. Willie Castro brings some some good contact skills to this lineup. Like, I think there is a reason to believe in going over 43 wins. Do I feel super confident in saying over 54.5? No, but I will say over here just because I think there's at least like a good shot that they made the right moves for being a bad team. They didn't all buy in to old death like the Diamondbacks did. They got some guys that can improve this team. They're still going to suck this year at the end of the day, and that's why they're fifth place team for sure. But I think there's like reasons to be like not optimistic. I don't know how exactly to pose this, but like I think they have a better year than they did last year. That's what I'll get at here.
Fair enough. I think where you sell me in a positive light that I can at least buy into that is like you can make a strong argument that this team in a weak sample size, 1 week sample size, WEEK, I do think that you have probably 10 innings of starting pitching that is better than last year. And
yeah,
if Michael Lorenzen gets hurt, then that goes away. But
yeah, for sure. Without a doubt. All right, who is your fourth place team, Jared?
Hard not to just follow this up and say I'm expecting Arizona to just take another step back. This is a spot where they finished 80 and 82 last year. I do think that they weren't really a seller. They were to a certain degree, but they didn't like full out sell when the trade deadline came. I still disagree. Like, I like this lineup. It's been a fun lineup to play for all things betting and DFS and fantasy the last several years. However, I don't really understand what they're trying to do, and I do feel like this is a team that they probably might pull the trigger this year in terms of dealing Ketel Marte. Maybe Arenado goes to a different team. Santana always seems to move around July. You're really just hoping that your first 2 months of the season look good. You get Corbin Burns back. Hopefully, we don't even know what he looks like. And we also hope that Jordan Lawler just goes bananas at the big league level. He's had a really, really strong preseason. Spring training has been very, very good to him. However, I don't know, man. It was pretty disappointing last year. Hopefully, he's got it under control this year. It does feel like if things go very poorly, they will be one of the biggest sellers in baseball. And for that reason, I just can't confidently say that they'll be better this year. Over-unders at 79.5. I'll have them fourth place, and I'm going under.
Yeah, I have under here too. I have the Diamondbacks in fourth as well. I think my key point is exactly what you said, is that like I expect this team has so many older guys that they can offload at the trade deadline that it just makes too much sense. This team could very easily be the biggest seller come July 1st, June, whatever the trade deadline date is. They could be the biggest seller in the NBA. Like, Zach Gallen is expendable. Especially on a 1-year deal right now. Not Ryan Nelson. Eduardo Rodriguez is expendable if he has somewhat of a decent season. Ketel Marte, they can get a haul for from basically anyone. Nolan Arenado can be traded for decent pieces. Geraldo Perdomo can be traded. Carlos Santana can be traded. Like, you go through this team, you have a bunch of older veteran pieces that are signed on 1 to 2 year deals. That means that pieces can get traded. So I really like the trade upside for this Diamondbacks team, which means they're definitely a fourth place team. I have them under 79.5. Even if they don't trade away anyone, I still don't feel confident they go over 79.5. I'm probably I'm a little bit more hesitant on betting an under for them, but I still don't feel confident in the over.
Yeah, pound for pound, this division is just haymaker after haymaker in terms of what the Diamondbacks have to go up against outside of the Rockies. And there's no real case to make that Arizona, unless they run extremely hot and Corbin Burns returns as a Cy Young after a Tommy John surgery, I just don't see it.
For sure. Okay, let's head over to our third place team. Who do you got?
I would love to make the case, because look, it's really clear. It's either the Giants or the Padres, and you can make cases for both teams. And I would love to make the case that the Giants at least have a shot at 85 plus wins. I will give everything there. I do like what they did to the back end of this rotation. And I think that, like, giving some of those guys that were kind of minor league to major league jumps at the back half of last year in terms of their starting rotation didn't really work out. And I do think that Adrian Hauser and Landon Rupp can look good in a pitcher-friendly ballpark scenario. Outside of home games, I think that they could get exposed to a certain degree. With that said, though, the lineup in general just fell flat to me, and it was even before the Devers stuff. I didn't really love the signing of Willy Adames to the Giants in general last year. And so, I don't know. I'm trying to, in the most optimistic cases, there's certainly a chance that if San Diego underperforms, then this team could squeak into a wild card situation. With that said, though, I do think, like, I feel very middling and mixed about my comments on this team, because I do think that if things click very well, they can have a really, really good offense. With that said, though, I'll do two things. Obviously, I will have them third here. But I do think that this division has 3 teams with 80-plus wins, and it's because I feel like there's so much downside to the Rockies and Arizona that, like, I do think 3 of these teams can get over just because of how things go in the division. So I think that at the end of the day, they might have done enough in the offseason to get to 85 wins, and I'll give them the over of 80.5, but I don't think that they'll make the postseason.
Yeah, I was going through my head as we were leading up to this third place spot and thinking, how can I possibly pitch that the Padres are the third place team and Giants are second? And I really couldn't find a lot of ways to make that reasonable at the end of the day. So Giants will be my third place team. I do think they go over. I do think they're a mid-80s team at the end. Like, if everything goes right with this offense, here's the difference really, is that, like, both of these offenses have really notable names in the Giants and Padres. It's just we've seen the Padres be a good offense. We haven't seen the Giants put it together yet. So if the Giants do put it together, then I think they have a really good shot at being second if the Padres underperform, and I think they have a good chance at being a wild card team. I just don't know if that can happen. Whereas with the Padres, I know that can happen. We've seen this offense meld really well, even in the tough confines of Petco Park. And I just believe in the Padres offense a little bit more, it feels like. So Giants are my third place team, but I do believe they are an over here at 80.5. And I like their general upside overall. I think there are good things coming. It's just this offense has got to meld more than it did last year. We got to see Devers step up. You got to see Willie step up. You got to see a lot of these guys step up a little bit more than they did last year. Okay, second place team is the Padres for both of us. Jared, give me your thoughts why.
I just love what they have in terms of starting rotation depth. This is as deep as it gets, and that puts them in the conversation with the Dodgers, with Boston, with a couple of other teams in terms of the depth situation there. Mets in that conversation too. Yeah, I think that having the back end depth of that, like, what happens if Walker Buehler, Haining, and Tristan McKenzie come out and look really, really good for extended stretches of time? Like, you can do a lot with the depth of this rotation. And on top of this, like I said it before, this pound for pound lineup would be a division winner in most other divisions, right? Like, I think Bogarts has underperformed since coming to San Diego, but you get another year of hopefully a healthy Jackson Merrill. Manny Machado's looking as good as ever. Fernando Tatis obviously had a down season and has had kind of a down season in terms of power since he got busted. But I do expect him to look really good heading into this year. Love Laureano in this lineup. I think Castellanos is a very good add. Like up and down the order, things just look really, really good. So I'm going over. I feel confident this is a postseason team, and they have. I know that they underperformed against Chicago, against a very, very good Chicago team, but I do think that they have a chance to be like a number 4 seed. And I guess here's the conversation. I'll let you have your take, but I want to do an exercise where we try to pitch when we go Dodgers next. We try to pitch how this team can beat them. And I'll go over 83.5 wins for them as the second place team.
Yeah, I'll go over 83.5 as well here. I do think that I'm just copying everything he's saying, and that's kind of the harsh spot of going second. But like the depth is really good. The lineup makes a lot of sense. We've seen Tatis, Machado, Mero all have pop in the past altogether. We've seen this offense produce, and I think the bottom of the lineup is like pretty damn good. Like Freddie Fermin as your catcher is a guy who has pop and can play really well. And Miguel Andujar, I know he's batting for the Athletics, but at times last year, he was a top 4 hitter in that lineup. And now you're getting him as your 8-hole hitter. Like, that's exciting. It's exciting to see what Cronenworth can do. Adding Castellanos to this offense, if he can get a little bit better than he has been over the past couple years, is exciting too. Like, you have a pretty stocked offense overall. So the end of the rotation looks a little bit questionable with like Randy Vasquez and Herman Marquez. But you can kind of just play mix and match and just find whichever starter's going to have a good year because you got that many options.
You have a full rotation that can compete for the 4th and 5th spot.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how that fits itself. And Musgrove, King, and Pivetta are really good 1 through 3s in the rotation. So yeah, I like what the Padres bring to the table. So they are my second place team.
Last but not least, Dodgers. It's not a shocking surprise to anybody. I think the most interesting part of this, 2 parts, is having this over-under conversation, and also how can we pitch that the Padres can beat the Dodgers in terms of win total? Do I want to do that, or maybe like a 3 to 5 game series? Because, like, spoiler alert, I'm going to take them over 102.5 wins. I know that's a ton to ask for. But this team, like, they were 93 and 69 last year, and it felt like they just sleptwalked from May to July. And at times, like, the pitching was iffy. That was a big headline of, like, what are they going to do come postseason time? You can't honestly throw out this bullpen right now. And they just didn't even use their bullpen at all until the World Series, and they just took over everything. Now, this is no shame on the Blue Jays whatsoever, but I just feel like this team can win 120 games, and I wouldn't even be shocked. 120 is a stretch. I'll say 110 plus comfortably if they end up not going through the lull that they went through last year, which was like a month, right? So, yeah, I don't know. Can't say much bad things about the Dodgers. It's more about like making the case on how other teams could find a way to get there and beat Goliath, right?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but like I think the only way. Okay, so here's how you beat this Dodgers team is if you have a lefty-heavy starting lineup, because I think the one thing that this team will struggle with is the fact that they tout out a lot of righties right now in this starting rotation. Their only lefty is Snell, who's going to be injured for a little bit here, but you got Yamamoto righty, Glasnow righty, Ohtani righty, Shaheen righty, and Sasaki's a righty as well. Maybe if you're lefty-heavy, you can get to this team at the end of the day. I don't even think that's a guarantee. All of those starters I just mentioned were pretty solid against lefties overall, maybe outside of Ohtani, who's had his struggles against lefties in the past. But Yamamoto's been good against lefties. Glasnow's been good against lefties. So I don't know. There's not a lot of ways to beat this team. This is an over team for me. It's going to sound unimaginative for sure. But like I said at the beginning of the show, it very much reminds me of that Red Sox team from 2018 where they won 109 games. They just kind of have all the tools to do it. And kind of like you said, is that like this AAA team even just has a bunch of guys that they can go back to, right? Robleski, Gavin Stone, River Ryan's a very good guy, not a very good guy, a very good player, very good MLB level player, and just doesn't get a chance because they have so many other options. And you got to remember that like again, they run it back from last year. They bring back almost everyone, except now you have Kyle Tucker. Now you have Edwin Diaz. On top of that, though, you have a full season of Shohei Ohtani pitching, barring injuries. And you have a full season of hopefully Roki Sasaki looking like the guy that they signed and the intended prospect that they signed, instead of having to send him down to AAA and have him progress a little bit. So, like, yeah, very dangerous starting rotation, very dangerous starting lineup. It's hard not to bet an over here. And you'd have to feel pretty pessimistic about them overall, which I just can't imagine feeling that way after all the improvements they made overall. Anything else here, Jared? If not, let's move on.
To your left-handed hitting standpoint, I was looking through this division, and the only team that I thought had a chance from that regard is Arizona.
I was hoping you were going to say the Rockies or something dumb.
Perdomo, Marte, Carroll. I guess you could put Smith or Santana in there as well. Like, yeah, it's stretching, right? But yeah, so the other lefties in the other two competing teams, like you have Arias, Devers, and potentially Jung-Hoo Lee in a 1-3-5 situation. Not sure if that's enough necessarily. And then on the Padres end of things, they are a very right-handed heavy everyday lineup team. Jackson Merrill pretty much represents the only left-handed hitter at the top of the lineup. So things look pretty bleak from an NL West standpoint if you're anybody but LA.
So who is a lefty-heavy team? Like in the conference even. Who's a
Chicago.
Are they that lefty? Because they
Maybe
have Bregman now, and they have Seiya, and they have Nico.
Yeah.
Like they're 1-3-5 lefty, but like outside of that, I guess Phillies always have Harper and Schwarber, best lefty duo. There's not a lot of. I mean, even the Mets aren't even that lefty heavy. Like they used to be lefty heavy, but getting rid of Nimmo and getting rid of some other guys kind of solved that issue, and adding Simeon and all that. So I don't know.
Well,
you kind of need.
Unfortunately, you know who's lefty heavy?
Who?
The Dodgers.
yeah, for sure. All right. Anything else here, Jared? If not, we'll head over to Two Minds Are Better Than One.
Nope. I'm all set to go. Like I said, I got my 2 picks already done for this one.
I got my 2 picks too. We'll see if they overlap. For those who don't know how it works, Jared and I go back and forth, each of us selecting 2 season-long player props. Each, we put those together into a parlay, and we run that parlay over on DraftKings Sportsbook. Jared, I'll let you go first. Where do you want to go?
Yeah, I'm going to just make sure I have a backup plan, just because I think that we know each other well. We know who our favorite players are and who we like to gravitate towards. So I'm sure we'll overlap at least one. With that said, this guy did not have a great 2023. He was a part-time player. 2024, he was still batting under 200, but the pop started to show, and last year we finally got a full season of him, and he hit 31 home runs. I expect him to take another consistent step up in that regard, and I'm not even asking for him to get 30 home runs. I'm asking him to hit 25-plus home runs, and that is Hunter Goodman, who should get a full-time role this year. Again.
Yeah, I like the Hunter Goodman spot. Can certainly get behind it. I am going to go with someone that I talked about a bunch for this specific team. We're going to go with Bryce Eldridge for, let me see what I got him at because I completely forgot. 15 plus home runs, Jared. Like I said, this guy's got some incredible pop. 60+ % hard contact rate between AAA and the majors last year. And he just has to put it together at the MLB level a little bit. Got to lower that swing strike stuff. And if he can be a guy that hits 30 home runs. I feel pretty confident. He would be the Giants' first 30 home run hitter, Jared, since Barry Bonds did it. That's pretty freaking incredible. I think he has a chance to be that guy. So Bryce Eldridge, 15 plus home runs is where I'm going here.
Yeah, I was looking at that lineup, and I was like, they have 6 players that can hit 25-plus home runs. It's just
I know.
The ballpark just brings it in.
Yeah,
so.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
I was gonna say they just don't, but you're right. The ballpark definitely doesn't help all that much.
They just don't. With that said, I'm surprised that you didn't actually go here first, but it might be your second pick. We're going with Jackson Merrill for hits. He had obviously a full-time 2025 season close to it, and then last year. Last year kind of had the injury stuff go and happened to him. So as long as he can stay healthy, I'm kind of lowballing this just because of those health concerns. But I do think that he is a guy that I'm willing to go to. We have 130 plus hits for him on DK at a nicely juiced price.
Yeah, can certainly get behind it. He was my backup pick in case you stole one of my guys, which you didn't. So I am going to go. I feel like we have to take a Dodger somewhere, and it's going to be Kyle Tucker. I'm taking Kyle Tucker for 30-plus regular season home runs. I think the protection he has in this lineup is very close to what he had with the Astros, except better. And I'm sure he's just pumped to be a Dodger. He's pumped to be paid, and hopefully he's fully healthy from the wrist injury last year, because I think if that's the case, with this type of protection he has in the lineup, with Shohei hitting in front of him and Mookie hitting behind him, 30-plus home runs could be a very much a baseline of what he can do. He could very much hit 50 home runs if things go really well for him. So Kyle Tucker, he's always been a guy I really, really like. Kyle Tucker for 30-plus regular season home runs. So altogether, we have that Kyle Tucker prop. We have Bryce Eldridge for 15-plus regular season home runs, Hunter Goodman for 25-plus regular season home runs, and Jackson Merrill for 130-plus regular season hits. Altogether gets us at plus 334, Jared. Not too shabby. Okay, we're all done. We've spent probably like 6 hours in total recording all these division preview podcasts. So very excited for this to get underway. Very excited for MLB season to get started. Jared, give us your actual final thoughts for our MLB season preview podcast.
Imagine being born in the early 2000s and you are the best baseball player on your little league team, your travel team, your high school team, and your college team, and now you spend your time in the minor leagues and you're probably ready to go MLB level in most certain cases, but you play for the Dodgers. Right?
Yeah.
And you just sit there in the minor leagues and you're like, well, I'd love to be able to live my dream out, but Shohei Ohtani is currently on the roster, as well as Kyle Tucker, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, etc.
Maybe one day these guys get old.
Yeah. Please either trade me or let me have one at bat. So that's just what the culmination of all of our previews have been, is just like, it was only right and fitting to put the Dodgers as the last team that we're going to talk about, because it does clearly feel like it is a David versus Goliath, and the Davids are like the Mets, the Cubs, and the Yankees in Boston, right? So what I will say this year that I'm most excited about is that it does feel like, I know there will be this cloud of like doom and gloom of 2027 and what happens. Let's just let this thing play out, man. Let's make them prove it. And I do think that it's never been a better time, maybe dating back to like the Yankees and Sox early 2000s stuff or late 90s, where like the best teams in baseball are the elite coastal teams, and let's just see them fight to the death about it, right? Like, this is going to be a really fun season. Feels like the arms race has finally reached its peak, and we'll just let this thing run wild.
Yeah, we certainly will. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited. ABS, I talked about this at the very beginning of the show, or the very beginning of the podcast that we ran, but like, I'm very excited about what ABS brings to the table. I think it brings a whole new dimension to for those who don't know, it's the automatic ball strike system that they implemented, where players are going to be able to challenge the umps a little bit, and we'll finally get to see some accountability from the umpire's end. Hopefully. I mean, that's the intended way that it's going to work. I'm excited for it, man. I'm excited for this season as a whole. I think Dodgers are obviously that top dog. It's going to be very hard to beat, but we saw Toronto push them to a 7-game series last year, and no one would have said that. So baseball has a weird way of having a lot of variance. That's what happens when you play 162 games. So, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited for this season overall. I think I can't say every division. I think there are contenders in in each of the conferences, and it'll be a lot of fun to watch, man. And it'll be even more fun to cover all throughout the season. Jared, you got anything else? If not, let's get out of here, man.
Nope. Let's get out of here. It was fun doing this, and we'll likely see more of us trying to do this moving forward. So excited about that. Excited for the season. We're about 2 weeks out now from that first game, so super excited about it, and couldn't come at a better time.
For sure. All right, let's get out of here. Thank y'all for listening. As always, my name is Josh Riemer, and we will see y'all later.